room behind me.
Like that drum set?
Well, the drums are stacked up, and then I got like posters on the wall. Got the couch. Got some stuff over there. I got a lot of crap. All right, getting some people already. Give them about 5 minutes. For the recorded listeners and people coming in, obviously, lots of announcements this week from College Board. Looking at, to see on the AP exam and checklists and stuff like that, it seemed like they flooded you with resources, and it seemed like there's a lot of stuff, but there really isn't. A lot of the stuff just repeats itself, and they gave it to you through different avenues. Green, can you just check to make sure my live is going well?
It's like buffering.
Like definition 451, 400. I don't know. Whatever's below 720. This looks terrible. Anyway, am I buffering still?
Can't get it to work.
Videos that basically repeat everything in the PDF in case you want to hear somebody. And then in case you're really bad at reading and you're really bad at listening, they have a checklist for you. So at the end of the day, you really don't need to worry about anything. You have all the stuff to log in. All of you have College Board accounts because you've all been registered for the AP exam. So it really shouldn't be that question. What you should be wondering is how to log into that College Board account. It's the same one we've used for my AP classroom all year and stuff like that. Now Monday, the simulation goes live. Some students have said that they've been able to practice, but the simulation officially goes live on Monday. Log in, upload stuff, whatever. I'm not going to take this today to address technical difficulties that you may experience or formatting that you might have to change on your computer or iPhone or Android device. I'm not going to address that today because I'd rather see all of you try to do it on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Try to upload your stuff, and then if you run into technical difficulties, make me aware, make Ms. Green aware, and then we will address the large ones that we see if you can't fix it yourself next Friday. But no matter what, we will address the technical issues. I just want to wait till you actually attempt it before I start spending all this time rambling on about it, because that really wouldn't make a whole lot of sense time-wise. So that's what's new with College Board. Obviously, this is the last week of content. Next week, we're just assigning FRQs. We have 5 of them ready for you that we tried our best to go across multiple units, but there's only so much we can do. I mean, we can't give you an FRQ on 5 different units and somehow hit all of that stuff. So it's really important that you're going back, going over the videos, going over PowerPoints, going over your notes, those vocab words, and building the FRQ writing skill. Next week, there will be more Zoom Q&A sessions where you can, I'm going to call them Zoom tutoring sessions, where I will be in the Zoom room for an hour. If you come in, ask me any question you want. I will literally lecture about anything next week concerning AP Human Geography, preferably. So if you come into that resource will be available, which is absolutely crucial because this is crunch time now that we are, a week and a half away from the AP exam. So, all right, we have a whopping 50 people, 49 people. Somehow we lost somebody. So hi, everybody that is here officially. We're going to get started. Okay, so this week, super easy. I'm going to run through this quick. There's not a whole lot to say about agriculture. There's a lot of stuff in it, but I feel like it repeats itself constantly. So no real surprises here. You know what I mean? Looking at the multiple choice for Unit 5, excuse me. Question 1, the Industrial Revolution transformed Western agriculture. A, through mechanization and creation of new markets. That's the second agricultural revolution. We've talked about this. As people moved into the cities and urbanized, You had all this land out in the rural countryside, and farmers couldn't farm all that by themselves, so they had to use machines and technology that were a result of the Industrial Revolution that let them do that. So know your agricultural revolutions, but know how to explain them in the context of everything else happening, because that's how the AP exam is probably going to be. All right. Then we had ranching as a good example of what type of agricultural system. It'd be B, extensive commercial cultivation. I know that's a different word than what you're used to seeing, but know your types of agriculture. Know if they're extensive or intensive. Know if they're commercial or intense, or commercial or subsistence. Real easy, guys. That's easy stuff. I don't know if we'll have such a simple question on the AP exam, because remember, these are only FRQs and they are going to be the more analytical ones. 3, all of the following are plantation crops except wheat. Wheat is a that's just like a big grain, agricultural product. That's up there with like corn and stuff. We have tons of that. That's not making people money, like cotton, tea, sugarcane, and rubber. All right, which of the following methods of farming has become more popular in response to a widespread use of pesticides in farming? Organic farming. I feel like that's really easy too. Just understand the current shift to organic agriculture, because we talked a lot about big commercial factory farms. In fact, I think there's a question coming up that's about it. Just remember that we had this huge shift to big commercial agriculture using agribusiness and supply chains from all around the world, and globalization of markets and moving food. And at one point, once people started making more money and becoming aware of their food, they went, maybe we don't like that. And we saw this shift to organic farming. So understand that change and why farmers choose to do organic farming, because they can actually survive, and compete instead of trying to compete with big commercial agriculture businesses. All right, 5, herders who move herds constantly in order to find food sources as old sources are depleted engage in pastoral nomadism. Pretty straightforward, easy agriculture question. Which of the following is a benefit of the industrial agriculture? It gives consumers more access to food. Guys, once again, reiterating this big industrial agriculture complex, these supply chains, these cool chains, globalization, it gives us the ability to have food whenever we want. Like, I have to have avocados because they're a healthy fat. Well, I can have avocados year round because of this. You can have strawberries year round because of this. You don't have to wait for seasonal food because we can get it wherever we want to because of industrial agriculture. And obviously advances in technology and transportation. 7, a direct result of the U.S. farm crisis is a decrease in the number of small farms. That's just the U.S. farm crisis. That's just the takeover of big industrial farms that really put small farms out of business, because they tried to compete with these big farms and they just couldn't do it. And eventually they would switch to organic agriculture. All right, which of the following best characterizes the Green Revolution? The Green Revolution is our 3rd agricultural revolution. I gotta reiterate how important it is to understand these agricultural revolutions, because they have impacts on demographics, on migration, on politics, on culture, on everything. So really, really important to understand not only what each one is, but the context of them in the world. But the answer to 8 is C. The Green Revolution was to increase crop yields and food production in many locations throughout the world. But the environmental impacts, the geopolitical impacts, and the world economy were not understood. Because remember, there were lots of drawbacks to the Green Revolution. If you still have questions, or if you forget exactly what's in the Green Revolution, reference the video where I go over that T-chart of the positives and negatives, or look back at your notes on those positives and negatives. Very important to understand. The domestication of plants and animals occurred during the 1st agricultural revolution. That was the Neolithic Revolution, and that's what starts the demographic transition model and takes us to stage 1. See, it's important to understand. 10, what agricultural practice is employed by people who move from place to place with their cattle? Just another way of rephrasing pastoral nomadism. I know some people made me aware that some of these repeat. I appreciate you. 11, which describes a change in agriculture that shows the clearest impact of development of agribusiness? And that would be D. The networks for production and distribution have become more efficient. I mean, guys, there was nothing exciting about these multiple choice questions, and they're super repetitive because there's only a couple big concepts from this unit, and this is one of them, reiterating this point that big commercial agriculture uses these huge networks of production and distribution to make sure that we get food as efficiently as possible. But we also know the bad side to that when it comes from other countries, that maybe those companies are taking advantage of those workers, not paying them well, using cheap land. Keeping countries in export-oriented economies, keeping them as periphery states compared to the core. All of this stuff is related. We're just looking at it through the agriculture lens. 12, which statement best explains why a large number of agricultural products are imported to the United States from Chile? Reiterating that point of globalized food market, that Chile has the ability to grow food during our winter time, so then we can have those fresh fruits and vegetables that we expect to have constantly. I mean, I didn't know as a kid that it was not the norm to see the same food all the time. And I don't know if you guys have ever thought about that either, but if we didn't have this huge globalized industrial farming system, supply chain throughout the whole world, you would walk into grocery stores and only eat what's in season for your region. So think about all the impacts of it economically, politically, socially, demographically, environmentally. It's a great FRQ question. All right, and then 13, which list products in order in which they are produced, starting closest to the market according to von Thunen? The answer here is D, pretty straightforward. Milk is going to be the closest, then forest, grain, and beef cattle. If you got to go over von Thunen's model, I'm not going to take the time because it is really, really easy. What I would try to think about more when it comes to von Thunen is the bigger picture. Like, we know where to put these farms, but then how do we divide up the land so then you get all the different ways, like the long lot, the meets and bounds, stuff like that. But yeah, besides that, I feel like Unit 3 or Unit 5, oh, you guys don't have that question. Someone just made me aware that 13 you don't have. Well, that's okay. It's a von Thunen question. It's real easy. It's just saying to know what order of von Thunen. Thanks for the heads up on the remind. Now, if anyone has any questions about agriculture with these multiple choice questions, feel free to send it to me. Of course, we're going to be doing the tutoring session on Monday. Like I said, I'm doing them every day next week. Anybody's welcome to join and ask questions about this. Someone asked why 11 wasn't A. Which describes a change in agriculture that shows the clearest impact of development of agribusiness. Because it's specifically mentioning the impact of development of agribusiness, you want to focus on agribusiness. And the small scale farming sector is not agribusiness. We want to see what agribusiness has changed in our lives clearly. And the best answer here for that is their distribution and production efficiency. Oh, that's not your 11.
Maybe that's why there's a repeated question.
Maybe, yeah. Oh, your question was about Chile. That's weird. Okay, so yeah, okay. So A is a really good answer, right? The inexpensive labor in Chile reduces cost of production, 100%. But it's asking. Oh, now I'm saying, oh, I'm getting messages from kids that the numbers are all switched. Okay, well, hopefully you were able to follow along with the topics. I'm so sorry. I'll put this out as an answer key. But let's think about this question, the one about Chile and why the United States imports things from Chile. Is it because of the inexpensive labor? Yeah, 100%. But what is the best answer? And the best answer here is B, because we could go to a lot of different places and have inexpensive labor, right? We could go to a plethora of countries that have similar that have similar weather patterns to Chile. But the difference is that, okay, I got to talk about that one too. But the difference is that, specifically about Chile, is that it's under the equator, so the seasons are flipped, right? So while we are going through wintertime and we can't harvest those things, and everybody north of the equator cannot harvest those things, Chile can. And that's why we go to them for our fresh fruits and vegetables. So they fit a lot of the check marks, but the biggest one being that they're able to produce the food that we can't during the winter season here. Sorry about my dog barking in the background. Toby's got a lot to say. Okay, another student asked the question, for the one that talks about the plantation crop, why isn't it rubber? Okay, so I know it seems like rubber is a very common commodity, and it wouldn't be a plantation crop. Rubber isn't something we need to live. When it comes to plantation crops, cash crops, these are things that are luxuries that we don't need as a necessity and that are very expensive. Generally, they grow in very tropical climates. So that's why it ticks all the boxes for like cotton, tea, sugarcane, and rubber, because those are luxury items, where wheat can be grown in massive amounts in many places all around the world. So it's very cheap, right? So if you ever get confused on what is the not cash crop, just think about how common is that crop is a very easy way to think about it. And wheat is very common. All right. So it seems like that is it, multiple choice wise. Now we're going to jump to the FRQs. Now the FRQs that we had, I'm jumping around a little bit here on my screen just to make sure I got the stuff pulled up right. Very easy one for you guys to start with on shifting cultivation. Some of you have had this, some of you have not. Just wanted to throw an easy one out there, maybe to boost that confidence. What is subsistence agriculture, guys? Know your difference between subsistence and commercial agriculture. Subsistence agriculture is stuff grown for the people growing the food. It's for them to eat. Maybe they have excess and they'll trade it with other people nearby, but it's not to make money. Then describe the practice of shifting cultivation. Remember, for shifting cultivation, you have to include every part of shifting cultivation. That's just something in general you should do when writing FRQs, is try to be as specific as you can. I always go back to this idea of making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. If you were to tell me the steps to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, the likelihood of you describing exactly how to do it, probably not going to happen. You would say something along the lines of get bread, put on jelly and peanut butter, and then you have a sandwich. That doesn't, if you were talking to a person who's never made a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, that wouldn't be it. So when you write your responses to FRQs, you want to lay out your responses as if the person has never covered this content before. Of course they have to know it because the readers are knowledgeable. But if you treat it in the way that they have never heard it before, you'll take the extra time to really write out your responses and make sure you get the point across, and then you don't miss points. Because to describe the practice of shifting cultivation, you have to mention that they clear the land, they farm on the land, and then once they have used all the resources of that land, they move on. And if you don't have those three parts, you're not going to get the points. Now for part C, it said explain one reason why shifting cultivation was sustainable in the past. Guys, this C and D is talking about why is it that in the past there was shifting cultivation and why is it changing today? Right? And the answer for that is because of globalization, industrialized farming, agribusiness, stuff like that. So why was it sustainable in the past? Well, lower densities. There's just less people and more land available, so it made sense. But why is shifting cultivation going away today? Well, people aren't practicing subsistence agriculture. You can make more money being a part of this globalized, industrialized, food market, and that's just more possibilities. Notice below the equator, tropical places, that means they can grow food when countries north of the equator can't, and they can get them and they can ship them those stuff and make some money. Answers here fall along the lines of technological advancements, talk about growing populations, or just the choice to go to commercial agriculture. You could really talk about a lot of stuff here when it comes to why people aren't practicing shifting cultivation. I got a question from a student that says, when shifting cultivation takes place, can you reuse the land once it grows back? Yeah, most definitely. Most likely they would repeat in cycles where they would come back to land once it has been replenished. So yeah, totally. And then do they burn the land before or after they farm? And does Swindon apply to the cleared land and burned land? They burned the land before. They can't farm the land if there's trees there, right? So think about the process in a way that would make sense to you. Like, you have to clear that land, you have to burn it all just to have the space. And then by doing that, the nutrients are going into the ground, right? And that gives them, wow, we have a lot of questions on this. Can we say that shifting cultivation isn't sustainable as it contributes to global warming for part C? No, because with subsistence agriculture, you don't have it on this massive scale. You only have it with small populations practicing this. So it sure, but it's not the best answer. I really wouldn't go with it. But I also don't think we're going to see a question this specific on the AP exam. But just think with sustainable agriculture, I'm sorry, not sustainable. Subsistence agriculture doesn't have a big impact on the environment as like commercial industrialized agriculture does. Okay, another student asked, can you have said that there are environmental laws outlawing it in part D? Yes, most definitely. All of a sudden the government could care and they go, we don't like deforestation, we have to control deforestation. Yes, that is a possible answer for part D. Excellent political aspect that you can bring in. So the low-hanging fruit here, the easy answer is definitely money, right? Why we would switch from shifting cultivation to some other type of agriculture, whether it be ranching, whether it be plantation. But remember, you can always talk about economic policy or political changes as long as they don't tell you what you have to talk about. Now, if they say, give us an economic reason, you have to say economic. It has to be involved with money. If they say political, you have to give them a political reason why it's not happening, something involving government or laws. But because they're not being specific, you get to kind of answer how you want to. Okay, so I think, and then yes, what about environmental impacts like deforestation and topsoil loss? Yeah, that's it. Would that be a reason? I guess that could fall under caring about the environment, like controls to deforestation, but you're really not. I don't know. I think you're overthinking it when you're going that far. But if you were to drop all the words like that, I think the reader would just go, clearly the student understands the impact of cutting down trees for agriculture, and you would get points. So, I mean, guys, these rubrics are really basic. And if you can articulate that governments would want to stop deforestation because of caring about topsoil loss, because of desertification, that's going to be so impressive to the reader that it's not going to matter. You know what I mean? If you don't exactly nail it word for word on the rubric, because you clearly articulated the ideas that they care about the environment. I hope that makes sense. That was a lot of words. Ms. Green, sorry to throw you on. Do you want to add anything about this FRQ?
Nope, you're solid.
Okay, guys, really good questions. Awesome questions. That was really good. I hope everyone else definitely benefited from those. Excellent. Okay, FRQ2 was a lot harder. And personally, I like this one a little bit more because it was a little more challenging. First question, identify scale of analysis. Yes, awesome. Let's talk about scale and how scale can disrupt the data that we receive, right? So question A, and by the way, on the AP exam, you're not going to get a question like question A where it just says identify the scales of analysis, because you're on a shortened time and they're not going to ask you an easy question like this. I mean, maybe, let's hope, easy points, slam dunk, but I don't think so. I don't think we're going to see something like this. But it's important to understand scale. So possible answers here, you could say the larger map shows a regional scale and the smaller map shows a country or national scale, which is exactly what it is. When we're looking at that bigger map, we're seeing regions of the world. But then we zoom in and then we see individual countries, and all of a sudden the data is changed, right? And that's kind of the drawback, as I've mentioned with choropleth maps all year. We've talked about thematic maps when presenting data, and every time we see shaded areas, we're like, that's kind of lying to us because you can't see specifics. But when we increase the scale, right? When we zoom in, and we change the scale of analysis, all of a sudden we get better data, But even then, we're still looking at choropleth maps and we're not getting as much information as we could, but we are still getting information. All right, and then B, explain why all of Southeast Asia is shaded in a single color in the world map, whereas Southeast Asian countries are shaded differently. I just explained this. You're essentially, in part A, you identify the different scales, and then in part B, you're explaining the impact of those different scales, right? So I'll let you look at the exact verbiage when you check the rubric. But essentially, that's all you have to say is that when we look at the region, we're just given one set of data, but then when we change the scale, now we see differences. And if you want to sprinkle on a little bit of, just an extra little seasoning to your response, use the stimulus. Quote specifically the changes, right? Because if you look at the shaded area, the shaded region in the regional map, it says that all of Southeast Asia, change in rice yield per acre went from 0.5 tons to 1 ton per acre. But then when you zoom in, you could quote individual countries for producing more. And that'll just show wholeheartedly to the reader that you understand scale of analysis along with how to explain it. Part B is definitely one we can see on an FRQ. All right, and then part C, describe one technological advancement that made the Green Revolution possible. Guys, we've talked a lot about Green Revolution technologies. You should be able to knock this out of the park. You could talk about the GMO seeds that produce more food. You could talk about the synthetic fertilizers that can grow more food. You could talk about pesticides. You could talk about better irrigation techniques to get them more water. The fact that you only have to describe one makes this one really, really easy. All right, and then part D, using the data shown on the maps, explain how the Green Revolution affected farmers in less developed countries. Really easy here. Potential answers. The map suggests that an increase in yields of rice per acre allowed farmers to provide more food for people in rural communities. What a revelation. How hard is that? It seems really confusing, but you're just looking at the map and going, yep, they produced more food for people. Look at you, geniuses. Other answers said the map suggests that for some farmers, the increase in yields of rice per acre may have led to a surplus of rice that could be sold at local markets and farmers can make more money. Amazing. Or the map suggests that in some areas, commercial farmers increase their output through acquiring smaller subsistence farms, thereby displacing some farmers from their land and contributing to rural impoverishment. No one's writing about that. That's way overthought. If one of you wrote that, wow, congratulations. But why wouldn't everyone just write they're producing more food so people have more food? I don't know. Seems really easy. All right. Part E, explain the degree to which mechanization changed rice production in less developed countries. And the answers, as easy as it's going to be, the introduction of small tractors to plow rice fields reduced the number of people needed to prepare the soil. Tractors are seen as an improvement over using animals. Or mechanization gave farmers the ability to clear more land and produce more rice, which increased yields. What a revelation. You're telling me that using machines makes more food? You're telling me using machines reduces labor, like physical labor? Wow. I know I'm being sarcastic here, guys, but I don't want you to freak out with these questions because these are really straightforward, right? And if you miss these, it's probably because you overthought it. We're not trying to trick you, and I don't think they're going to try and trick you on the exam. There are a couple more answers here, but I really don't think students hit them, but I will put the rubric up so you can study them so you can see all aspects of it. And then part F, explain how the use of agricultural chemicals contribute to the change in rice production. Once again, we're just looking at another aspect of the Green Revolution and it's saying how it increased rice production. Top answer, the use of agricultural chemicals such as pesticides contributed to an increase in yields of rice production. I feel like it's the same answer for every single one. So a student asked, isn't the mechanization a part of the Industrial Revolution? Really good question. Okay. And I hope others were confused and I want to clear this up. The Industrial Revolution happened and we saw mechanization in agriculture. But did everybody go through the Industrial Revolution at the same time? No. The Industrial Revolution happened in England and North America. Let's go back to our demographic transition model because that's how we are better at placing our revolutions. Then we saw the medical revolution. The medical revolution disseminated all this medical technology to the developing world. Well, the Industrial Revolution probably happened the same way. These countries didn't see these machines and introduction into agricultural machines until after North America and England went through the Industrial Revolution. So what's also key about the Industrial Revolution was factories in urban areas. These are countries that are still predominantly agriculture based. So they're using the rewards of the rural agricultural rewards of the Industrial Revolution in the developing world without actually going through the Industrial Revolution in that developing country. I hope that makes sense. That was a good question. Because when we specifically talk about the Green Revolution, especially in the developing world, you can't say introduction of machines, right? Because that's already existed before the Green Revolution. So you would probably get points off if you marked that. But then we ask the question, well, okay, what about the time between the Green Revolution here and the Industrial Revolution here? What were developing nations doing here? Were developing nations using big machines and tractors and stuff like that here before the Green Revolution? No, because there's subsistence farming. It's small fields. It's manual labor. So they didn't have a reason to have those tractors and those machines because they weren't producing enough food. They weren't performing commercial agriculture. It's with the Green Revolution that all of a sudden all the yields are really big from all the Green Revolution technology. And then they go, okay, well, we have so much more food, we have to use machines. So now they're going to buy machines, from that have been around. So I hope that clears it up. That was a really good question. Ms. Green, anything you want to add about this one? Do your students have any questions?
We are good.
Okay. So everybody, that is it on the Unit 5 review. I know that was very quick. Nothing really complicated here, just keeping it straightforward. Really understand your agricultural revolutions, understand how they impacted the world in different countries, be able to lay out your agricultures around the world, and understand the most important point. I think wholeheartedly, if they are going to write FRQs that jump multiple units, the big topic in agriculture to understand is industrial agriculture and globalization of food and food production, right? And how that ties to core periphery idea, how it ties to neocolonialism, how it goes back to colonialism, export-oriented economies, all that stuff. So really, really, really take the time to understand those things. Besides that, like I said, next week I'm going to be holding tons of tutoring. I'm sure Miss Green will be too, because it's the last week before the AP exam. We are going to be here for you. You can ask any question you want. I will literally lecture anything from AP Human Geography. I'm here to help. I'm here to go over questions. I'm here for it. And I hope that you take advantage of the ability to literally ask your teachers anything on your own time. Very strange. As always, keep up the hard work. I know some of you are working really, really, really hard, and you are absolutely grinding this out, and you are going to pass that AP exam. We're here with you. You're awesome. You're amazing. Keep up the good work. We couldn't be prouder of you for how much work you're putting in. For the students who have chosen not to put in work, I still like you. But besides that, please try. Any last words from you, Ms. Green?
Just check the schedule on Monday, because we're going to have lots of opportunities for you guys to practice FRQs and get that one-on-one help. So this is something that we haven't done in the past for the past 5 weeks. So just make sure you check on Monday so you know what the week is going to look like. Yep.
Can't reiterate that enough. We haven't done the tutorings every week because you've had your review packets and stuff like that. You've had tons of resources, and we didn't want to flood you. So if you need help with the FRQs that we're going to be giving next week, if you want to come on and do other FRQs, if you want to ask about multiple choice questions, if you want to ask about vocab, if you want me to talk about autonomy and devolution, whatever, we're here for it. Okay. So please take advantage of the opportunities next week, and we will be ready for the AP exam, and then we'll be done. Finally. All right, everybody. We'll see you later. Have a great day. Have a good weekend.
Bye, guys.
We'll see you next time.